Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I am Anisa Nurul Khofifah from class 4A. In this video, I will explain about how to deal with different types of learners and the principle of TEYL. Happy watching! But before we begin, I will explain about heterogeneous class. It is a class that has different kinds of learners in it with varying levels of ability and characteristics. Because their personality and characteristics are different, so how teachers deal with this? Let me explain to you. Passive children are children who are quiet. The impact that passive students can have is that they are slow in doing everything, often fall behind the lesson, never ask the teachers even though they don't understand anything. And for active, an active student is always eager to learn something, highly competitive, focused and ambitious, time-conscious, and always has a curiosity to learn something new. So how to deal with passive and active learners? First, vary the task. Combine listening, speaking, reading, writing, vocabulary, and grammar. Give everyone equal chance to speak up. Don't only let the active students, but we also have to give the passive students a chance to show themselves. Give reinforcement or compliment. Walk around the class so everyone will get your attention. Mix the passive and active student in the same groups, but we have to make sure that everyone does their job. Change the seating arrangement. Sometimes some students are passive because they think they don't pay attention to them. Call out their names. Give motivations word. For example, a passive student answer a question, you can say, "Wow, that was a great idea." Fast learner is someone who can absorb knowledge or a skill quickly. Meanwhile, slow learner is a term for someone who learns at a slower pace than the average person. A slow learner needs more time, more repetitions, and more resources to learn new concepts. Here are the tips of dealing with fast and slow students. The first is apply mixed method. So the fast students and slow students are at the same group discussion. Do comprehension check, especially on the slow learner. Ask questions to both types. Don't focus only the slow one or the fast one. Vary the learning methods, vary the level of difficulties of the task and assignment or the test. Give feedback so students know their ability. The last is do a personal approach. It means that you talk to specific learners if needed. Here are teaching tips for fast learners. So you as a teacher do an enrichment. It is additional material that is harder and you can do it to fast learner. And then remedial teachings for slow learner. So the teacher gives additional class to the slow learner. And then peer tutoring. So it is fast learners teach the slow learners. Special needs refers to individuals who require assistance for disabilities that may be medical, mental, or psychological. So here are the tips that I can give to you. First, teach them step by step. Students with special needs often need specialized instructions and more scaffolded support, such as having tasks broken down for them into more manageable tasks. You should also keep things simple. The more complicated you make things, the more likely your students are become confused or frustrating. Keeping your classroom organized will also help them to minimize stress and distractions, and it can keep them to stay focused. Second, get creative with accommodation and support. Provide students with learning disabilities a special device that non-disabled children do not need. For example, giving a child with autism a phonetic spelling software designed to automatically convert the student's type into the word they intended to write. Third, alternative assignment and test. Some students with special needs are challenged by test taking and may fail even if they have full comprehensions of the lesson context. Letting students know in their own way how they have gained an understanding of a certain subject may be an alternative solution to both tests and smaller assignments. There are four principles of teaching English to young learners. Implicit learning is learned subconsciously, so the students do not realize that they are actually learning. Why is implicit learning important? Research has found that it can allow students to move forward more confidently in their academics. It can reduce anxiety and improve student success. Young learners have to study without pressure. At their ages, they love to play rather than study. If they are under pressure, the study won't be succeed. For example, a song, movie, or a game. The next principle is contextual learning. Contextual learning is a practice that adds relevant context to the learning process. It helps to relate the information to real-life situations and their daily activities. In the activity, the teachers do not focus only the word but also shows the students how to use the word into a sentence. Why is it important? Because learning a language without knowing the context or the use in real communications will not help the students develop their language skill. For example, you can ask your student, "What is it?" And then they said, "It is a marker." And then you can ask them again, "How many is it?" Or "What color is it?" And the third principle is learner-centered. It is learning that put the students to be a center in the learning process, so the student as an active agent. The students become the main role in the classroom. The teacher is more of a facilitator than a lecturer and gets students to follow their passions or path in education. Why is it important? Of course, because language is a skill which we need to master. So we have to practice it. We cannot learn a language just by learning it, but we also need to practice the language. Moreover, it can encourage students' choice and voice. For example, debate, presentations, and discussion. The fourth principle is meaningful learning. Meaningful learning is learning that is both relevant to a student's life and aims to achieve deep understanding through the contextualizations of the knowledge with prior knowledge and experience. As we know that young learners are egocentric, they like to talk about themselves and they see themselves as centered. So the teacher connect the material with what students already know and students' life, self, or students' background. Why is it important? Because when we apply the meaningful learning principle, we connect the material with students' real life. It makes the material meaningful for them. As a result, it might stay longer in their mind and they are easily understand the material. It also can keep their learning motivations and interest. Meaningful learning includes active learning, constructive learning, intentional learning, and authentic learning. In teachers' examples, using authentic texts or songs as learning materials, or you can ask your students about their personal experience. So that's all for me. Thank you so much for attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.